Hey everybody, welcome back to BFD. Today, BFD stands for Binside Fout de 2. So as you could have guessed by what our channel name is, I saw Inside Out 2 today. And let me tell you, it's pretty good. Alright, let me just chop that up and send it out as a short, because that's all you need apparently. So I have a few thoughts about the film, as you might have guessed, since I'm making a video on it. But overall, I've got to say the film was pretty solid. Structurally, it seems pretty intact, almost by the books in terms of when things happen in the script. It's right at an hour and a half, which I don't think it needed any more time, so there wasn't a whole lot of filler, which was appreciated. And also, as a positive note, the humor was pretty good this time. I found myself laughing quite a bit, especially in the first act or so. And the animation on a whole was pretty well done. There wasn't anything particularly striking about it, but it maintains the same style as the original with maybe a bit more fidelity there. You could see sweat on their faces a lot, which I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I bet that was hard to program. But yeah, again, on a general note, the film is pretty good. I hold the first film in the highest regards. I think that it is the best Pixar movie ever made, topping the likes of Monsters, Inc., Up, Wall-E, The Incredibles, Finding Nemo. Gosh, wow, basically most of them. Which is surprising, I know, because Pixar usually makes some pretty good movies. Haven't been crazy about the last couple that they've turned out, and they have made some stinkers in the past. I'm looking at you, Cars 2. Am kind of Brave, kind of The Good Dinosaur. Definitely The Incredibles 2. The Incredibles 2 sucked. But the reason that I really enjoy the first Inside Out movie is not only because it is a very well put together script, and the characters are all fun, and there is a really nice cathartic moment at the end dealing with everything in both the emotion side of the story as well as Riley's side of the story. But the reason I really like it is how psychologically accurate it is in terms of the development of a child's brain. I know you can't tell this about me right away, but I was never a little girl, and yet I still related to the character of Riley. I never tried to run away, and yet I still related to the character of Riley throughout. And while in the first one it's kind of weird that the emotions have emotions, but I guess you can't really do a story that has any emotional intelligence at all if the emotions aren't allowed to emote different than what their characters are. But I've said for years that the first film needs to be played in schools, at some point in elementary or middle school, because it's that emotionally profound for me. And I think it's a great lesson for kids about, essentially being in control of their emotions and allowing themselves to be emotionally intelligent, as well as how to regulate themselves. But they can't really do that because they got phones at 2. Well, that's a whole nother thing. Don't get me started. All of this to say, I was really excited for the second one. However, at the same time, I was kind of dreading this movie. Pixar doesn't have the best track record when it comes to sequels, and to be fair, most franchises don't have the best track record when it comes to sequels. However, I trusted that Pixar would do a good job with Inside Out 2. And overall, they did, but at the very end of the movie, when the credits start rolling, I sat in my chair and I wondered, why was this made? Now, I know what you're thinking about typing, or maybe you have typed down there already, I don't know. But let me explain. I never had to deal with panic attacks or a rush of anxiety outside of anything that would be considered within the normal kind of emotional range, right? I never had a struggle with that, and I know plenty of people who have. And I'm sure to them, the scene in particular that I'm sure everybody is going to be praising about this movie, about Riley suffering from the panic attack at the climax of the film, everybody's going to be praising that. And again, I get it. I'm sure that was presented in a way that is pretty accurate. It seems to probably be something that happened to somebody on the writing team or somewhere on there. And they really brought that out in a pretty good way, I think. I'm not saying that a lesson on how to manage anxiety is not a good lesson for kids to understand, or in this particular case, probably like older middle schoolers, junior high age kids to understand. The problem that I have with the film is that the resolution is basically the exact same resolution as the first film. The whole point of the first film, again, is how to coexist with all these emotions inside your head and allow yourself to feel more than one things at a time, right? That is, when you become a slightly older kid at a certain age, eventually your emotions are not just singular at any point. You can have a mix of emotions, a wide range of emotions. That's a very common thing to feel. And I think they nailed it in the first movie. And they do the same thing here. Yes, there are new emotions and they add a whole nother kind of dynamic to it, although I'm not sure why anxiety is different from fear. I don't know, maybe there's like a psychological reason that we would separate those two in particular. However, at the end of the film, both anxiety and joy have to realize that they can't decide what Riley, or who Riley is. And I don't really see much of a difference between that kind of denouement and the one from the first film. Like, I understand that different things are happening, but at the end of the day, both films are about learning to harness all of the emotions together to make a more emotionally intelligent person. And that's what we get. I was talking about this on the way over to recording, and it could just be that in 2015, I was 16 years old. Maybe I was just more likely to cry at films or in films during that time in my life because maybe I was just going through more emotionally. And perhaps that's different now. I'm at a point in my life now where, you know, I'm pretty much a developed person. I don't have a lot of weird things going on in my brain chemistry anymore. And that could all be part of it, but at the same time, like, I cried like
a baby when you played Cinderella.
Peter, that was first grade.
In the first movie, the first time I saw it, it shook me to my core, both the emotion side of the story as well as Riley's resolution with her parents and just how simple it is and how honest it is, just emotionally, and it's sincere in what it presents. And oh man, I wish I could go back and watch that movie for the first time again. I'd be curious if I have the same reaction to it as I did. In this film, again, I'm a much older person now, by 9 years, yeah. But at the same time, I don't really feel like there was the same amount of emotional spark to this film. And I can try to diagnose what that is. I think in part it has to do with the fact that there is no real sacrifice taken by any of the characters in the film. Riley is distancing herself from her friends, which is a very similar kind of thing, what she does in the first one when her emotions become stunted in her growth, and so she starts to navigate away from where she should be. So I guess you could say maybe she's sacrificing her friends, but we don't feel that because she never really feels that. She's having new friends. Joy doesn't have to sacrifice Bing Bong or potentially sadness, I guess, or there's nothing that has to be given in order to take. And you could say, well, Joy sacrifices her ability to control Riley. And I'm like, well, okay, then we're just repeating the first film, and that goes back to my past point. So again, I'm just left wondering, why was this film made? You know, maybe it's enough for some people to say, well, it presents panic attacks in a way that, you know, it's good to see, you know, because people have a lot of anxiety these days. I can't imagine why, but they have a lot of anxiety, and, you know, it's good to present that on media. And I don't necessarily disagree. I'm just saying that when you make it a sequel to a film and you hit all the same beats as the original and then lose part of what makes the emotional resolution work so well in the sequel, you're just going to have a lesser reaction to it. And by the way, I think Puss in Boots 2 actually did it a lot better. Maybe it was 3. I can't remember how many there were before. But the point being, I know Inside Out 2 was definitely in production by the time Puss in Boots 2 was released. But at the same time, like, they did that really well there. And so I'm left thinking, well, yeah, I guess more is great, but there's already a fantastic example in a kid's film of panic attacks and how to deal with that and anxiety and managing that. So it did it better. So I don't need this one. But look, I'm not trying to say that this movie's awful. In fact, you'll see on my rating where I think it should be in a scale of 1 to 10. But again, I expected more, and maybe this is a case of my expectations not being managed properly. You made a sequel to the best movie your studio has ever made, in my opinion. So, the expectations are going to be a little high for me, so maybe that's my fault. But at the end of the day, I don't think I'm off base with what I'm saying. You might disagree. You might say, well, none of that really bothered me. Or maybe you'll say, you're dumb. Here's why your points are wrong. To which I'll say, oh yeah? I bet you won't comment that below. And you know what? I bet you won't even like this video. Yeah, got him. Yeah, I think I'm kind of rambling at this point. But if I had to rate this film, I'd rate it a solid 7 out of 10. And no, I don't mean that like Jake's 7 out of 10, where he's like, every average movie is 7 out of 10. And I always respond with, what's in the middle of 10? And he'll say, 5, Kyle. And I'll be like, yeah, that's what an average movie should be. And he'd be like, but I kind of liked it. I'm like, so make it a 6. And he's like, I liked it more than a 6. I'm like, so, okay, I guess you're at where you're at. I just don't think that that's what an average movie should be labeled as. If you're going to have a rating system, you got to make it somewhat freaking coherent. But that's, damn. Yeah, I forgot Ash took Jake's picture off the mantle over here. I used to have a picture of Jake. Now I have my stepbrother over there. No idea if he watches these videos, but Brett, if you're watching, kidding. Talking about my other stepbrother. But hey, like I said before, if you want to like this video, then like the video. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the channel. Like I said, leave a comment. What do you think about Inside Out 2? Did it meet your expectations? Did you have any at all? I would like to hear about that. I'm genuinely curious. I really want to know what other people are thinking about this movie. I think I'm alone in my non-acceptance of the movie, and I'm kind of worried about that because I wanted to like it. Anyways, I've been Kyle, and I still am, and we will see you in the next video.